What's up, YouTube? Extra time, July 4th, 2019. Happy holidays. If you're in the US, that is. If not, happy normal Thursday. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's a brown liquor special. We haven't done this in a while, but we're talking Gold Cup, US women in the World Cup final, transfers with Sam Stejskal. Anybody gonna help me out
Charlie
here?
loses his B card.
Whoa.
Yes.
You're gonna make a guarantee.
I made a guarantee. They are who we thought they are.
Exactly. Extra time starts now. Oh, from New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental from the AT&T studios in Midtown Manhattan. I'm Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Charlie Davies, Bobby Warshaw, Matt Doyle. Stop yawning, Bobby. I know. It's 2 a.m., man, but you know what the nice thing is about 2 a.m.? In our contracts, which doesn't actually exist, but I'm going to say it does, once it hits 2 a.m., we get a little brown in our cups. This is a rare, very rare brown liquor special. It's been a while since we had one of these, but happy 4th of July, everyone. Happy US-Mexico in the Gold Cup final. Maybe most importantly, happy World Cup final for the U.S. women. They're marching on. Netherlands in the final on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Should we all just do a little tea sip here? Is that how this should work? We'll do our best. Alex Morgan, yes?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
proper.
Ooh. That's where the best analysis
What's up, Bobby?
comes from. You all right, Bobby? You hitting the wall here?
No, I feel great.
Okay, good. So let's talk before we get to Gold Cup, before we get to Sam Stejskal on the transfer window, before we talk a little midweek MLS that was wildly entertaining and competing with like 5 other games at one time. Let's talk U.S. women, man, because we're trying to win a world championship here.
Ballers. Absolute ballers. No matter the circumstance, the situation, they come to play. Whether it's Kelly O'Hara making these overlapping runs and whipping in these great balls, whether it's Tobin Heath's first touch, which is better than half the U.S. men's national team, whether it's Alex.
I'm gonna go better than. I might go way further than that.
Yeah,
Just be like better than the
of them.
men's national team.
Yeah, it's better than most.
I'm thinking of that ball that was falling from the sky.
Yeah, the 14th minute, that one.
Oh, no biggie.
She just gloved it like Ronaldinho. Or it's Alex Morgan's goal celebrations. When you watch this team, it's everything I want. I'm a fan of them. I'm a fan of what they do, what they mean to the game, what they do for women, not only in this country, around the globe, and for generations, for the oncoming generations. What they're doing now, all of the things they're fighting for, that's going to benefit the game. It's going to benefit women. It's going to benefit the daughters. And that's what I love about them. And now they're quality players. I enjoy watching the skill on the field, them beating teams and
celebrating,
being proud of it. Yeah,
and
celebrating.
being kind of savages.
I
about
love it.
It's the best. My dad texted me throughout this whole tournament saying, the U.S. men, man, they're kind of, it's kind of boring. But the U.S. women are skillful. They look like they should win the games, and then they go win them. It's been a beautiful thing.
Wait, do they always look like they should win the game?
Well,
Because that second half against England was rough. And like I agree with everything, like pretty much everything Charlie said. I want them to play better. And if you look at the last 2 games, they haven't, even the Spain game as well, they haven't been this dominant force. They've been winning because they're better in the 18s. And if you're going to be better in the 18s, you're going to win a lot of games and maybe even a World Cup. But I still feel like this team is giving me 60% of what they're capable of. So hopefully they do what they did 4 years ago when everybody was kind of, I don't want to say questioning them, but wondering which team would show up in that final. And the team that showed up in the final, that's all we remember from it because they were so good. I want that team to do that to the Netherlands.
I think at the end of the day, it's about results for Jill Ellis. She does not care
For sure.
about how they play.
But I'm a fan. So
Yeah, but you're making that statement when you put Julia Ertz in the midfield, who's just running around like a wrecking ball. Great because she breaks up plays. She has a physical presence. She's dominant, but she's not connecting passes. She's not orchestrating counterattacks. You lose that when you insert her and you take out Sam Mewis and Lindsey Horan. Lindsey Horan, when she's on the ball, she's strong, she's powerful, but she can create, she can dribble. That's what you want to see, and that's what you lose when you put Julia Ertz. But you also gain the midfield. You gain that fear factor. You grind out results, and that's what they've been able to do. They can sit back, give the other team possession, and then counter and win.
Before we get to the U.S. and Mexico and the Gold Cup final and the men's side, Bob, I'm going to give you one last go-round before this game on Sunday. The women, what they're going for, the history they're trying to make, what's it mean?
Charlie alluded to it earlier, right? It's about way more than soccer. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about the soccer part, but what they're trying to accomplish is so much more than what's happening on the field. It's everything you hear about with the equal pay, with the recognition not just around the U.S., but everywhere around the world. People are paying attention to what Megan Rapinoe and Alex Morgan, all these women say. On the field, I take the side that Doyle is on, where I'd like them to be a little bit better in terms of some of the soccer elements, but they're winning, so how can you complain? They look like they're going to go into the final as a dominant favorite.
Do you compare it to what France did last year? Because France were a great counterattacking team. It wasn't always great fun to watch.
No, it's a little weird. I don't know if there's another word you could use, where the last two, and we don't want mean to crown the U.S. yet, but assuming they do win, to have them and France win the World Cups, the two world champions both won about it in a pragmatic, defensive way. It's a little bit distressing, depressing.
I do wonder,
Maybe it says something about the sport. I don't know. So listen, what the U.S. women are doing is amazing, but I also think that it's possible to say they could have played better soccer along the way.
I agree with that. And I do wonder, though, that if that's the direction that international soccer is going to continue to take, because it's just not you don't get as many reps with your teammates as you do at the club level. And we see more and more complex schemes coming out of club soccer every single year, because you have 300 days a year with your teammates. With the international game, you don't have that. So it feels like the best thing to do, even if you have an overwhelming talent advantage, which frankly is what the U.S. women's national team has almost every game, and what the French men's national team has almost every game. Even with that overwhelming talent advantage, you're maybe better playing in a low block and using your athleticism and hitting on the break and getting into the open field. And it's both good and a little disappointing that the women's game is maybe starting to mirror the men's game in so many ways.
But it's all about results, and it's all about winning and
For sure.
So you have to weigh that balance. And when you look at France, it's, okay, let's sit back and limit our mistakes and limit us being caught being wide open, and if you lose the ball in the transition, you're screwed, especially in the international level, because everyone's a baller, everyone's lethal. And so you limit that by staying in those little blocks and using Mbappe to just bomb forward and put in balls into the box. This U.S. team, I get it. They are overwhelmingly better than the rest of the field, physically, athletically, and as soccer players. But Jill Ellis understands, I want to make sure and not take chances and risks that we win this game.
Charlie, I just want to go back to the point you said about it's all about the results, and I think I take exception to that, because it's not. Winning is more important than not winning, and this is a little bit different than the conversation just about this U.S. women's team, but just in general in the sport, it's an art. And if you don't go about it in an artful way, even if you win, you're doing a disservice to everyone that takes it in. So it's a bad time to have this conversation. I want to have another time.
Yeah, talk to the Arsenal fans about art and beauty of playing and not winning anything.
For sure, and they could have gone about it in a little bit more of a practical way. You can marry the two, and if you aren't trying to marry the two, you are not doing your job as a manager. And yes, there are some people who don't have the budget, all these other things, but if you are a team like the U.S. Women, Manchester City, Arsenal, these teams that can acquire talent, you have a responsibility to the world to go about it in a certain way. And
Only if it was that easy. Only if it was that
I'm not saying it's easy, man. I'm not saying it's easy, but you have a responsibility to provide something to the world. That's my opinion on this.
There's no better time to have this conversation, by the way, than 2 a.m. when you have a mug full of whiskey.
My last point on the women's team, Andrew, is for really wonderful analysis, Kim McCauley, Thrace, Meg Linehan, I hope I got the pronunciation of her last name, Caitlin Murray. There are really wonderful people on Twitter who have been so on top of this.
Equalizer.
Jeff Kassouf. Make sure you're following them. Yael Averbush. Make sure you're following them on the game on Sunday.
Honestly, this tournament has been a joy. And we'll get to the Gold Cup. We're meandering a little bit here, but I've been enjoying it. This tournament has been, it's sucked me in, it sucked you guys in, it sucked the people out in the production room in, it sucked in people that I meet that would never, I would think, be into soccer. And they're all about it, and they're talking about games, and they're following the U.S. women, and they're saying, wow, these are inspiring players, these are inspiring people, and we get a chance to see that payoff on Sunday. So,
and I hate to bring it up too, because it makes you think, what could have been in 2018 had the U.S. been in it. It just shows how important a World Cup is and what it does for our country, what it does for our sport. And I don't want to take anything away from the women because they're doing it now. Everyone who was on the fence about soccer, they're in it now. They know all the starting 11 for the U.S. women's national team. That in itself is remarkable. So what these women are doing for our sport, not just for women in general rights across the globe, but for our sport is tremendous.
And if you are enjoying the Women's World Cup, make sure you watch on Yahoo streaming the NWSL games, buy tickets, follow the Equalizer. There's things you can do aside from these 4 years to enjoy women's soccer.
And you don't have to be like a season ticket holder. Drop in for a game. Give it a try. That's all it takes. Now let's talk Gold Cup. Greg Berhalter's trying to marry the aesthetic side with the results side, and so far in this tournament, the results have been good. They've been good. 15 goals scored, just 1 allowed. They knock off Jamaica in the semifinals 3-1. We know that matchup in the semis hasn't always gone the way the U.S. have wanted it to. I was there in 2015. It was wild. It was incredible. It was exhilarating. And then after that, Mexico and Panama just blew our minds. This time around, U.S. handled business. And it was shaky at times. There was a 90-minute delay for Lightning. That's why we're here in the middle of the night. But they got the job done. What was good about this? What makes you happy? We'll get to the negatives. Those are always there lurking beneath the surface. And, soccer Twitter and U.S. fans are always happy to find them and dig them out. What makes you happy right now about the U.S.?
Movement off the ball. That's what really pumps me up, is everyone was moving off the ball, the interchanging of the front three, Josie's involvement in the offense and the build-up, and the outside backs getting, one outside back really getting involved. And when I watched this team, all I wanted to see was improvement and a team that could compete and play like they are the best in the CONCACAF. And that's what they've done. And for me, the goal was just to get to the final and play against Mexico. If they lose against Mexico, for me, it's still a victory. It's still a win because the program has taken steps forward. And that's really what I wanted to see, progress. Now, I think this team should beat Mexico. It came to the point where the way they're playing now and the way that Mexico has struggled in both the quarterfinal and semifinal, this U.S. team is better than that Mexico team. Now, if they play together, they can't go into it and think they're already going to win. But if they play well, if they play their A game against Mexico, they will win.
How much did Josie Altidor's introduction lead to that sort of mindset? Charlie's, you've been very, very vocal. The U.S. are going to go into this game. You have confidence in them winning. Josie being in this game, I think changes it. It changes the way Christian Pulisic plays. It changes the way Weston McKennie plays. It changes the way the whole team functions just because of his ability to drop in and get on the ball. We've been talking about this. Is it that easy? Is that obvious? Is it, or are people missing something here?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You got that crazy look.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, he's got
next question.
He wants to jump out.
The answer is yes. Next question.
Elaborate. Is it just his individual skill, or is it something else?
So the talent level helps, right? More talent is better than less talent, especially within the same system. And Josie Altidore, good person, a fine player. Josie Altidore is a much better, more talented player. On top of that, he also fits the need that this team has, right? We can have the Christian Pulisic conversations all we want. There's one truth in this whole thing, and that's that Christian Pulisic should be playing wide. He needs to be playing wide. Even when he starts central, he needs to get wide as much as possible. The corollary to that is, okay, well, who plays central? If you're going to take your best attacker out of the middle, then who plays central? Because it's fair. Georgia Mihailovic, Christian Roldan don't seem up for the task at an international level. Well, Josie answers that question. We've talked about this, Charlie. Josie Altidore is a quote-unquote number 9. In his heart and soul, he is not just a post-up center striker. He is a creator. He is a facilitator. He wants to be on the ball and play like he is a midfielder. So what he does, he drops a little deeper. When that happens, you need other players to run behind. And it seems to me if you look at the players in this player pool, the more we could run, the more we could go, the more that the game can be up-tempo, direct, the better off this team is.
And to harp on what you just said, that's why Josie and I, our combination when we played together, works so well. Because his ability to drop in and create space for me, who just loved to run off him. So whenever he got on the ball, I knew he could play me. And whenever I made those deep runs, I knew he would always be making that run into the box where I could find him. We just we really complemented each other well because Josie is able to get into different spaces and pull defenders out of spaces, and his hold-up play is phenomenal. When he's on, when he's healthy, it makes such a big difference for the rest of the team. And when you have a player who can run off him and into the spaces that he's vacating, you have a big winning head start.
What makes you happy, Matthew?
I don't know. What are the cats? Mugs full of whiskey?
I was happy to see Josie back and looking the part. I was happy that him being there didn't just allow Pulisic to make that natural left-sided overload with him and Areola. And the first 15 minutes of the game, they are just killing this poor Jamaica team. I thought that Bradley and McKennie were able to go forward with more confidence because you knew that Josie wasn't going to be turning the ball over in bad spots. So I was happy about that, and I was look, there was some real concern in certain quarters that, oh God, maybe Greg Berhalter really does rate Chassi Zardes over Josie Altidore, and I'm with Bob. Chassi's a good human being, and he's served his country well here, but he's nowhere near the soccer player that Josie is, and there was concern that Berhalter felt differently, and my working assumption was Chassi Zardes is there because he knows the choreography. And he will go out there against Trinidad and Tobago, against Guyana.
We know this point. Next point. We've made this point 1,000 times.
Okay. He'll dance the steps. He danced the steps. Josie learned them watching from the bench. Hopefully Josh Sargent learned them watching from afar. I was happy with all of that. Then I was happy as well that after Jamaica made a really good change coming out of the weather delay, when going to basically man-marking Michael Bradley and almost man-marking Weston McKennie and taking away that dual pivot and forcing other U.S. players to distribute, namely the center backs. After about 10 iffy minutes, they kind of figured it out. So the U.S. was able to adjust to the adjustments, and it became kind of a chess match, and we mostly won it. And so that made me happy as well, that it's not just they're not robots out there. You're not teaching them what to think every single touch, teaching them kind of how to think a little bit. And that I thought that was validating.
Man, I want to touch on the Weston McKennie point too, because that was one of my main takeaways. And I guess I'll just fully have this conversation now because it's 2:15 in the morning, and when else do you have these conversations? I was concerned, and I think this is partially because we've been burned so badly over the years by the players that we put all our hopes and dreams on, right? I am naturally nervous about these players we get excited about because of the number of times they haven't worked out. And yeah, I was legitimately concerned, having watched pretty much every Schalke game this year with Weston McKennie on the field, that he wasn't going to live up to the billing, right? I was a little similar concerned with Christian Pulisic, right? Where as wonderful as he is, that aside from the goals and assists, which are incredibly important, he hadn't been living up to the billing. If you watched all his Dortmund games, a little bit of the same. Was I being picky there because of the number of times my heart had been burned? Perhaps. They were both excellent tonight. This was the best soccer game I have ever seen Weston McKennie play at the professional level. This is the game, the goals aside, because the goals were ones that almost any professional player scores, right, that Christian Pulisic had tonight. He was good through the run of play. This was his best performance through the run of play since the Trinidad and Tobago game in 2017.
The Panama game.
But before, correct, before Trinidad.
Yeah.
Since then, however that works out. So I'm willing to say that I had been nervous about their development for a variety of reasons, but they were excellent tonight, and that felt good, and it felt like a weight off my shoulders to see that.
Concerns? Mexico's up next on Sunday. It's a big day in soccer. Women's World Cup, Copa America, Gold Cup. You better find a way to carve out your schedule and make sure your significant other or your friends or your family or a kid, whoever it is that you're bargaining for time with, gives you what you need on that day.
Yeah.
What are the concerns? Because Mexico is the opponent that the U.S. wanted. Ultimately, that's the test that they wanted. It's not been, as we've said, smooth sailing. They barely got by Costa Rica. They just barely got by Haiti thanks to a PK in the 90+3 that, I know that producer Rich, who does instant replay for us and has a lot of experience as an actual referee, we just talk into microphones after we watch plays and read the law book, Bobby. He says that wasn't a penalty. I'm not sure I'm on that side. But Mexico hasn't exactly, they're not the juggernaut that they have been in previous
Well, they're
tournaments.
missing 4 to 5
Okay, that's
lockdown
fine,
starters.
sure, but they still have more talent than you would say anybody else but the U.S. maybe.
Yes, but they also have 240 minutes, the past 2 games that Mexico has played, to watch and study where they're vulnerable, what they're lacking. And when you look at this Mexico team, they struggle versus athleticism, versus speed. That's their problem. That's where you can really get at them. They can control possession. Mexican teams, that's what they normally do. But when they lose possession, we have the players not only to counter with their speed, but players that can finish. In that final third, that's where Haiti lacked players that could really finish, that could punish when giving one opportunity. Costa Rica, they didn't have enough. Joel Campbell, great for causing a penalty, getting there, but not enough pace, not lethal. And he didn't really have that many players around him who had pace that could do something like a Christian Pulisic, like a Jordan Morris, Josie Altidore. We have players that can do it with that one opportunity if given the chance. So I'm excited to see what this USMNT national team does when they have this big performance. It's going to be sold out, Soldier Field. A majority of them will be Mexican fans, so now you're feeling that rivalry, you're feeling that energy. Do you show up? Most of these guys have played against Mexico in a World Cup qualifier, in a Gold Cup. They know what to expect, so they've been there before. So that's not an issue. This is not an excuse now. Now it's show up. This can't be your down day. This can't be a day where you're not ready for the moment. You go there and you prove to the country, you prove to yourselves as a team, you prove to Greg Berhalter and the coaching staff that we're ready to move on. This is a new chapter. This is an exciting chapter. We want everyone to buy back into what this USMNT national team is producing on the field. And they faced a little bit of adversity today. It was the rain delay. You get off to a great start. Things are flying. And all of a sudden, pack it up, go back inside. And you got to wait. And now Jamaica has time to, whoa, we were way off. Let's game plan. Let's rethink things and come out and change everything. Switch it up on them. And they had to struggle to figure out, okay, they switched up things. How do we adjust? And they adjusted in the game. That's what's exciting to me, is it wasn't the coach going, you got to be here, you got to do this. It's go out there, figure it out, get a feel for things, play, move the ball around, and once you feel it, once you open them up, then attack, then play that way, and that's what's exciting.
How did they do it against Mexico? It's not going to be the same against Jamaica.
It's a very good question.
It's a much different game. It's a much different opponent. It's a different level of quality up top. Raul Jimenez has 5 goals this tournament. He'll be the best
I can provide a point to get you started, because I know you have thoughts on this. I'll tee you up. The United States need to be cleaner in possession in midfield, right? The number one thing that changes as you move up level, as you move up quality of opponent, is the probability that they punish you for a mistake. And right now, Michael Bradley was better tonight, but Weston McKennie, Christian, Josie a little bit, there's still 1 or 2 stray passes that Jamaica doesn't punish you at the same level that Mexico does. As they're starting to figure out these actions, these movements, there's still 1 or 2 times a game, actually way more than that.
Way more than that, yeah.
Where it just doesn't come off for whatever reason. The action's a little slow, and Raul Jimenez is more likely to punish you than Darren Maddox. So that's all we've been keeping my eye on. Just the sharpness and the quickness of decision making in the middle of the field, specifically in that first 2 passes after the U.S. wins.
And could I add Uriel Antuna, the pace, what he can do, versus Tim Ream, a left back. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that Greg Berhalter is going to look at and say,
I ain't worried about Uriel Antuna.
I need to adjust.
Famous last words, Matthew.
You can say
Famous last words.
You can say that, but speed and in this game and with that, the way the Mexican team plays, it's going to cause problems. I'm telling you that right now. He might not be a finished product. He might not be that dangerous. But because he's busy and he's active and he's always running, you always have to be aware of someone who has that speed, because you're late on a challenge, whether it's in the box or outside the box, and you accumulate yellow cards. That's what a player does. He causes a foul, gives them a crucial set piece, they finish off that set piece. Or he gets to the byline, he whips it across, it deflects, all of a sudden it's in the back of the net. You always have to be aware of players that have speed that can create problems. And Uriel Antuna is one of those players that thrives off of playing with the Mexican national team, because he has all these players around him who can dribble, who can take time on the ball, who can get by defenders and play him into space. And all he has to do is run. That's all he's relied on to do, is run, cause problems, cause havoc. We don't really need a finished product from you, but just be busy.
He's on a heater. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, drink up, man. Drink up. If Aurelio Antuna does it to you,
you're not going to make him answer the question. You made me answer the U.S.
I'm way more. You're right. Like, having that kind of speed going at Tim Ream, it's a concern, and giveaways are a concern. I'm maybe even more concerned about giveaways from the back than I am in the midfield after the game that we just played. Because if you think about it, Jamaica had a chance to tie it up, and it came off a Tim Ream giveaway. Yeah, so like that is a concern to me. But I go back to the Curacao game, and I wonder, is Mexico maybe just a bad matchup for the U.S. right now? Because as much progress as we've seen from this team in a lot of departments, I'm still shook by what I saw against Curacao and how easily they were able to shift our defense from side to side, open up gaps, and then play through us. Now, once that happened against that team, the U.S. did a good job of retreating into pretty even blocks and limiting the quality of the chances that Curacao was generating. But that's not going to happen against Mexico. If Mexico put their foot on the ball at the back and they start pulling us side to side and splitting Wes and Mike up the middle, then suddenly
Wes and Mike, like Doyle's
221. Wes and Mike, baby.
McKenny and Bradley up the middle, and then we're scrambling against Mexico. It's not gonna be a great day in Chicago.
Here's some rapid fire for you. The game's at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can watch it, I believe, on Big Fox. Pre and post game, Club and Country right here. Charlie, Matt, Lori Lindsay from the U.S. Women's National Team, veteran midfielder that's played with them for a while, now doing media stuff. We'll all be here doing that. Plus MLS games, by the way. It's going to be a crazy weekend. Eli GC hit us up on Twitter. Says Reggie Cannon or Nick Lima against Mexico at right back. Who are you taking?
After tonight, I'm going Reggie Cannon.
Reggie Cannon, too?
I think we all kind of want to see Nick Lima
on the left. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're going to see that. Yeah. Not going to break that bad news.
It seems unlikely.
Miazga or Zimmerman?
I'm Zimmerman. I just think he's a better soccer player right now. And if you look at that Jamaica goal, he's got some culpability there. He needed to be tighter.
Miazga
he needed to win that ball. Yeah, sorry. Miazga has some culpability there. I like Matt Miazga a lot. In the long term, he might end up being the better player. Right now, it's Walker Zimmerman.
Any dissenters there?
Indifferent.
Literally, either one for me could play, and it's not going to be a massive change.
Morris or Boyd? Morris gets to start tonight. He had some quiet moments. He had some big moments. His shot deflected, or saved, I should say, by Andre Blake. I was actually shocked that he pushed that into Pulisic's path. But his pace could potentially test Mexico if they get down the ball and push up, and he can play off Josie. Would you go Boyd or Morris?
Against this Mexican team, where possession is crucial, if you tell Boyd to stay out wide and he's got to be quicker on the ball, I think I'd go with Boyd, and Jordan Morris would be a great substitute.
Why do we think Boyd didn't play against Jamaica? I was surprised by that.
Didn't play at all. Didn't even come off the bench.
Didn't come off the bench. Christian Roldan came in on the wing. And I actually like Christian Roldan's movement on the wing a lot, but he's not a winger. Tyler Boyd, why do we think Tyler Boyd didn't play?
It's a great question.
I'm confused by that.
But I'll answer the question by saying start Boyd, and not necessarily because he's a better option to start, but because Morris is the better option off the bench. And this game may very well be won or lost in those last 25 minutes.
All right. Gold Cup final on Sunday. That finishes up our coverage of the tournament. It's been fun. The Women's World Cup has been even more fun. It's all about to come to the end, and we're back to club soccer. Let's quickly talk MLS before we move on to Sam Stejskal and all the transfer rumors that are starting because the window opens up on July 9th. Some wild score lines on this Wednesday night. Chicago 5, Atlanta 1.
Third best team in the East, Andrew.
Can I tell you, I had Nico Gaitan in my freaking fantasy lineup until about an hour before game time. I was like, no, I can't.
That's regret. That's regret for you.
That one hurts.
Sporting Kansas City at home against LAFC.
What would
5-1 LAFC? Red Bulls on the road in Houston, who've not been great.
I'm just
4-0 Houston.
Andrew, I'm just trying to think what the armchair fantasy analyst would write about Matt Doyle in the Sunday column for that managerial decision.
That's a really good point.
Do you ever think about that? What would I write about myself?
No, this is a new one for me. This is a very 2:30 a.m. question.
For sure, this should definitely now be
need a refill to really ponder.
Fan fiction. Matt Doyle, what would he write about himself? I'm here for that one. I'm here for that one as well. Minnesota winning at home against San Jose.
That's a big win. That was a humongous
huge
win
for
Minnesota.
For the Loons. NYCFC, handling business in Seattle. We have people tweeting us saying, you guys were wrong about Dome Tarrant, just admit it.
Dome adjusted better than I thought. There's no question, though, for 25 games, he was the worst manager in the league. He destroyed that team. Then he got an ultimatum from City Football Group saying, like, you have to fix this or you're out. And he simplified, and now they're better.
Matt, let's take a step back.
Now let's take a step forward, take a step back, and now we're doing the cha-cha.
Let's take a step back and explain. It feels like we have to explain that there's this thing that can happen in the world where it can be A and it can change to B. He could have done a bad job. He got better. Now he's doing a good job. And credit to him for doing a good job lately. But that doesn't mean he was doing a good job before.
I'll say, wait till the end of the season, and then we can talk about Toronto and how he did this year, because in this league, teams have the ebbs and flows. Some teams do poorly for a bit, and then they peak too early or too late. Wait till the end of the season, and then we can give a fair.
Are you buying it though? Is NYCFC very good right now?
I would say they're good. Okay. I wouldn't say very good, but I'd say they're good.
Pumping the brakes on very good. All right, look, there's a bunch of coverage you can get this weekend after you enjoy your holiday. Let's just get to Sam Stejskal, because it's all about rumors at this point. He's the bird dog, and he's back, and that gets my juices going. It's been too long. He's now at the Athletic. He's been with MLS Soccer for a long time. We were sad to see him go, but we're still following him on Twitter. I was.
Who's Sam again?
At Sam Stejskal. He's on the line now. Sam, what's up, man?
Not too much. Thanks for that great intro, although I would contest. I don't think me and Doyle are friends. So, just
I can confirm that. Sources across the league have confirmed that.
We've all confirmed it. We all know it to be truth. Let's just jump right into it. It's transfer time, and you and Paul Tenorio are already killing it. Go check out their notebook at The Athletic if you want the early sort of lay of the land. What we do know is that Carlos Gruezo is going to Germany. He's going to Augsburg for $4.5 million, maybe even more. Sam, this feels like a massive win for FC Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great price to get for Gruezo. He's 24. He had a solid career for FC Dallas, helped them to a couple of trophies back in 2016, the Open Cup and Supporters Shield, but it sort of felt like if he was going to progress further in his career, he needed to move. Dallas have kind of a stable of young midfielders there that they're trying to get on the field, that have performed pretty well when they have gotten time this year. They obviously felt comfortable enough with that price to move him on. We'll see if they go out and buy a replacement. Obviously, they got Brian Acosta this offseason. Doesn't quite play the same exact role, but certainly fills some space in that midfield. And it should open up some more minutes for Edwin Cerrillo, Brandon Servania, Thomas Roberts, guys like that. Ja'Cory Hayes, of course, as well. Not the homegrown, but certainly an effective piece for them over the last few seasons. Big-time fee for Dallas. It's interesting. Dallas is positioned to be kind of a real selling club here, one of the first we've seen in MLS. Whether or not it happens, we'll see. But they are positioned to do so. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the next 12 to 18 months for them.
You did a good job of strategically avoiding saying the name Paxton Pomykal in that answer. Big questions around his future, given how well he performed with the U20s and how well he keeps performing for FC Dallas. There is interest in him in Europe. The question is, does Dallas have interest in selling him? Is there a right number for them?
Of course, there's always a right number for everybody, right? I don't know what that number is. I would expect that it's probably not been hit yet. I mean, obviously it hasn't been hit yet, but I would expect that no one's gotten probably too close to it yet. He is a very important player for them. They're still trying to compete this season. So if they sell him, they would need, in the summertime, they would need to get a big return for him, and I'm not sure it's quite there yet, despite the success that he has had. It's been still relatively limited minutes, at least on the club level. So those bids might not be high enough for Dallas's liking at this point, but we'll see. That can change in a hurry. The one thing that I did want to add here that I think has been undercovered so far is that Dallas's technical director, Andre Zanota, he's very, very familiar with the global transfer market. There's the guy who came from Grêmio in Brazil. He previously was at Santos in Brazil, where he actually helped sell Neymar to Barcelona the first time. So he's someone that knows a little bit about selling players abroad. So that's kind of an interesting factor in all of this, where some MLS GMs don't have much experience with that sort of thing. Zanota has plenty of it. So that could play a role in all of it as well.
Sam, LAFC is flying, off to a hot start, but they're led by Bob Bradley and John Thornton. They're always looking to get better. This is a massive club. What is the DP search like? Are they in a rush to add someone? And can we expect a big name?
I mean, if they do add someone, I wouldn't be shocked if it was a big name. They're not in a rush to add anybody, though. We saw it tonight. They went out and smashed Kansas City 5-1. They're doing just fine. They were basically only playing with 2 DPs before they sold Horta, and they were doing just fine then. So they don't feel a need to go out and get a replacement. They feel like they have a good locker room. They obviously have all the results that they could want on the field, so they don't want to bring someone in and disrupt that. That being said, they are looking. They are exploring their options, and if a good one comes up, I expect them to take it. It would have to be a really good one, though, and they would have to feel really good about it, just because, they kind of have the luxury there. They're dominating the league, and they look like they're cruising towards an MLS Cup, essentially. So, they have that luxury.
RSL not cruising right now. Also, not using Joao Plata. There is interest in him in the league, but it seemed like last month there was no interest in RSL to trade Joao Plata with an MLS. They were trying to sell him to a Liga MX club. That fell through.
Yeah, there was no interest in trading him because they had, an offer on the table from San Luis and Liga MX that fell through towards the end of the process there. So, while they had that offer on the table, they weren't going to trade him because they could have gotten around $1 million for him. So now that that's off the table, and now that he's not playing still, and he's eating a significant chunk of their salary budget, I think he's making around $800,000 if I'm remembering correctly. They're willing to trade him at this point. They just kind of want to get him off the books, and I think they want to do right by him a little bit, considering he thought he was leaving and going down to Mexico. So I think there still could be a possibility that he moves abroad, but I think it might be a little more likely at this point that he gets traded. There is some interest in him around the league. I expect that probably to increase as the summer transfer window goes along and teams start to maybe miss on a target or two. So we'll see. There are teams that certainly could use a winger. I think Minnesota are in the market for one. Cincinnati, Columbus, I think could use some attacking help for sure. Even Houston, if they sell Albert Ellis, they could use some help out there too. So I expect there to be a market for him, and if RSL are really motivated to move him, I don't expect him to be in Utah for too much longer.
Sticking with RSL, what's the latest on Jefferson Savarino? He's been linked to the EPL, maybe a Dutch club. Give us an update there.
Yeah, so last I heard, which was a couple of days ago, no firm offers on the table for Savarino, although there is interest. So, we'll see. These things can develop quickly. With him, I would kind of expect if they're going to sell him, it would probably have to be in that sort of Gruezo range, maybe a little bit above it. He's coming off a pretty good Copa America with Venezuela. So if they move him, maybe like 4, 5, 6 million, somewhere in that range is kind of what it would like to take.
That'd be a good number. I think Craig Wiebe might like that if he gets that phone call. I read your column in The Athletic. I went and wrote a column sort of based off it. Thank you, Sam. One of the things you talked about was the Chicago Fire becoming a seller, and then they went out and whooped up on Atlanta tonight. So maybe not a seller as quickly as I thought. What's it going to take for them to get to that point, and who might they be selling?
If they continue to drop results, right? If they don't build on this Atlanta game, and if they take some losses and kind of continue to dip below the playoff line, then they would be selling. And from what Paul and I have both heard, pretty much everyone and anyone would be on the table there. Nelson Rodriguez he's certainly not afraid of making trades. We've seen that in the past. So I don't think anyone would be off the table for them, except for maybe Schweinsteiger or maybe Georgi Mihailovic. Everyone else would probably be in play there. But we'll see. I think I'm of the opinion that they have enough talent on that roster to get into the playoffs in the East. Whether or not that happens is a different story. But I wouldn't be shocked if they started ripping off some results and turning this thing around and keep everybody in-house. So we'll see.
The Columbus Crew have been struggling to say the least, but they've added young DP, Costa Rican winger, and Luis Diaz. What's next?
Yeah, I think we could see a lot next from the Crew. I think this could be a pretty active summer for them. Obviously, with Higuain down, that leaves a huge hole in their attack. Pedro Santos has been playing a little bit on the inside, which leaves a hole on the wing. But they need some help going forward, probably on the wing. They might start to look at number 10, kind of a succession plan for Higuain, who might not be around much longer beyond the end of this year. So yeah, I think we could see a lot of noise out of Columbus. Goalkeeper could be another spot for them. They probably need a little bit of help at center back too. There are a lot of places on that roster that kind of need to be revamped, and I would expect them to be active in the trade and transfer market. One name to keep an eye on there, Artur. He was a guy that was of interest in the winter and in the primary transfer window. So we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if he's a name that comes up in a trade over the summer.
I'd be interested in Artur. I don't run a team, but I like him. So if I can get something going here, we'd do that. Bruce Arena, though, does run a team, and he's doing the opposite of Brad Friedel. He's saying, who knows? We might not get anybody. Don't bet on anything. Whereas Friedel was saying, my number 9 is coming. My number 9 is coming. Is Bruce lying to us? Because I'm seeing a lot of rumors around the Revs in about the last 24 hours.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair to Friedel, I don't think he said number 9, but
difference maker, Sam. Designated player, difference maker. Fine, I'll give you that.
Bruce likes to play his games with the media, and I don't think it behooves him to set expectations that they're going to bring somebody in, right? The Revs saw how that worked with Friedel and Burns. It didn't go well. So why not slow play it a little bit? It doesn't really make a difference to go say, oh, we're going to go sign a guy. There were reports, I believe earlier today on Wednesday, that they were preparing a $10 million offer for Tijuana striker Gustavo Bo. I'm butchering that horribly, I'm sure. I haven't heard anything about that specifically, but I have heard that the Revs were looking to make a splash on a Liga MX striker. So that kind of squares with that report. So we'll see. The Revs have been looking for options for a long time, and they haven't been able to get any over the line. Will that change this time around? We'll see. But if they find the guy, they will spend. I believe that. We'll just see what happens over the course of the next month or so here.
At Sam Stejskal on Twitter, you can follow his work on The Athletic. Last one for you, Sam. Wayne Rooney last summer. Fill in the blank this summer. Are we getting a Chicharito? Are we getting a big name of that nature?
Balotelli.
Balotelli, I'm down for that.
Oh, Balotelli. I like that shot. If I had to bet on it, I would say no this summer in terms of just the name, in terms of just star power. But if we do get one, it's going to be with Miami. That's my bet.
Actually, I have one last question that Bobby reminded me of. Thank you, Bobby. Christian Pavone. What's going on with the Galaxy? It feels like deja vu, man. We're talking about DP slots again?
Yeah, no, that's a weird one. So the Boca president came out and said that they rejected that $12 million bid for 50% of his rights. Who knows? I don't think that means it's done. The Galaxy want him, from what I've been told. He wants to join LA and reunite with Barros Scalotto, who coached him down at Boca. Obviously, he would be a huge get. I wouldn't put him in the name category of a Rooney or a Balotelli for the casual fan here in the States and Canada. But in terms of what he might be able to do on the field, the guy's a full Argentine international. He was with them at the World Cup last summer, and he's 23. So that kind of speaks for itself in a lot of ways. So in terms of the DP spots, they would have to work a way around it. That might look like a loan. That could look like a restructure for Romano Alessandrini or a potential move for Romano Alessandrini. But I think that last option is pretty unlikely considering his injury and age and contract status, which is up at the end of the year. So we'll see. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done on that one, but it would be a massive, massive move for LA.
We'll see. That's our mantra right now. July 9th, the window opens in Major League Soccer. Usually the moves are thick and fast, both trades. And in the transfer market, Sam Stejskal is on top of them at The Athletic. You can follow him on Twitter, like I said, at Sam Stejskal. The bird dog is back, baby. Sam, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thanks, boys. Have a good night.
Big thanks to Sam Stejskal. We are now pushing 2:30 here in the AT&T
Hit us with the mailbag.
This is how much we are dedicated to this podcast.
I'm ready for this mailbag.
Hit us with
Doug Funny left us a voicemail. He says the obvious skills competition snubs that we missed, Tommy Thompson and mullet Tommy Mack. Not normal Tommy Mack, mullet Tommy Mack, which I think both of those are pretty good.
I don't think there's any question he was a better soccer player when he had the mullet.
Pretty good calls. He was at Chivas, so that was tough.
Oof.
That was tough, but there were some Glazos back in those days.
Should we pour one out?
Yeah, we maybe should. Anonymous with a New York area code, but that New York area code is bordering on Pennsylvania. Says, is it time to start talking about Marco Fabian as a bust and a failed signing? It's a little early for judgment, especially considering injuries, but even when he's played, has he really been that much better than Brendan Aronson? I think I had this question in the show out of my own brain a couple shows ago, Bobby, and you said, get that out of here.
I didn't say get it out of here, but it just, whatever he's done so far, hasn't done so far, doesn't matter. They brought Marco Fabian on to be a difference maker near the playoffs and in the playoffs. And no, he's been straight up worse than Brendan Aronson so far, but they already knew they were a playoff team. They needed someone to create a moment of magic in the playoffs, so it's still a TBD on Marco Fabian.
Did they know they were a playoff team? I know it feels like they did at this point. But if you go back in preseason, I'm not sure that any of us were sitting around saying, Philadelphia Union, man, definitely a playoff team. They'll be there.
Yeah. They're a playoff team.
Yeah.
You thought so in the preseason?
Yeah, with the core they have.
Okay.
Have you not listened to Bobby and I for the last 2 years?
Barely ever.
Okay, that's
hardly,
smart. That's a good move.
hardly at all.
Like, I definitely thought they were a playoff team, but it is the question Bobby posed. It's like, what happens when you get into those games where you need your best players to be the best player? They haven't had a guy who's been that good. It's an open question whether Marco Fabian can ever be that again in his career, but it's the bet they made. And if it pays off in the US Open Cup final or in the playoffs against NYCFC or whoever else, then he's not a bust.
Casper Shabilko had a pretty good night tonight.
And I was going to say Andrew Wooten.
That's where I'm bringing it up.
We don't know how he's going to be in. And then do they deal Fafa Pico? He's talked about being upset with the playing time. He's done well when he's gotten it. Do you trade him and get something in return? I'm sure there's teams out there that are willing to trade a lot to get Fafa Pico because of the speed that he has and he can create dangerous situations. But my concern has always been the strikers for the Philadelphia Union. They're never going to win an MLS Cup if they don't have someone who can put the ball in the back of the net.
Put a B on it.
Guarantee that.
Put a B on it, Charlie. What's the goal number?
Guarantee.
Okay.
What's the goal number? How many goals does a center striker have to have going into the playoffs and to have a chance?
14.
They're leading goal scorer.
Hold on. But if Andrew Wooten comes in and wins the job, he's only got half a season, so he's not going to get 14.
All right, if he gives me 10 goals.
More goals from now until the end of the regular season. Andrew Wooten or Casper Shabilko?
Casper Shabilko.
Shabilko.
Yeah, he's already integrated, and he's putting the ball in the back of the net. He's got 3 goals in his last 4 games.
All right.
We'll see.
Anonymous from Atlanta, talking about Julian Gressel in the U.S. national team. Julian Gressel has his own brand account, Gresselmania. I did not know that. He was doing a Q&A on this thing, and somebody asked him if he has his U.S. citizenship by 2022, would he play for the U.S. national team if called? Gresselmania, a.k.a. Julian Gressel, said, most likely yes, because I love this country. Then you do the math. He could potentially be eligible like December 2021. The World Cup in 2022 is in November because it's in Qatar. Would Julian Gressel be an actual option for the U.S. at that time? Is that a player?
As a right back?
I don't know. You tell me.
So as a utility man, right? Because if you think about tournament play, you always need that one guy who could play 4 different positions. Julian Gressel can kind of do that. Whether he could do it at the international level,
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Wait, you don't play Julian Gressel over Paul Arriola tomorrow?
No.
Paul Arriola started every game for Greg Berhalter. We're going to put him ahead of Julian Gressel, no questions asked?
I would put Paul Arriola in front of Julian Gressel, no question asked, because of what you get from Paul Arriola consistently. And for this lineup, for this team, Paul Arriola is exactly what Greg Berhalter needs. And I don't think Paul Arriola should be starting long term.
It should be Tim Weah. That's the question, right? It's not Julian Gressel versus Paul Arriola. It's like we all think Christian Pulisic's going to be a winger. We hope he's going to be a winger. We think Tim Weah, who just got sold for $10 million, is going to be a top-flight international. We have a lot of good young wingers coming through as well. Mm-hmm. So what about right back? Well, Reggie Cannon seems really good. Nick Lima seems really good. DeAndre Yedlin is a starter in the English Premier League. We know that when he's locked in, he could be really good. So there aren't a lot of, 1 for 1, I would take Julian Gressel over that guy. But again,
not in 2 years, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But in tournament play, again, you need one guy at least who you could be like, well, he's a winger today, he's a fullback tomorrow, maybe he's a box-to-box midfielder on the 3rd day. You just need that.
He'd only have a year to work his way in. It's a long way away. He would have to stay in the U.S. He'd have to keep residency, so we'll see.
It's not like we're talking about Nico Ladero, like, transferring to be an American. You know, this is Julian Gressel. This isn't, one of the best players in the league.
What about Jamario Martino Moreno? The union.
Oh yeah, Jamiro Montero.
Jamiro Montero. Yeah, I'm struggling, guys. It's late.
Well, after that tackle from Sasha Kleshtin this weekend, it may be done for him. No, I'm just kidding. It was a bad tackle. Apparently, Sasha apologized after that one. But that would be a definite instant replay fodder there. We'll end here. Michael McGuire says, Wiebe, rants are not your strengths. I agree with you, but you didn't sell it. Bring in a Lawless. They seem genetically predisposed to whining with authority. I thought that was just that was a sharp, pointed email.
I thought your rant was great.
I thought you were pretty good at that. First of all, the use of the word rant is overdone. It's the same thing as golazo or goat these days. I mean, tranquilo with the use of the word rant. Ben Bear.
Impassioned defense of
Screed.
Yeah, I like Screed. Screed's very underused.
You made that word up.
No, it's an actual word.
I've never heard the word Screed before.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you're not a nerd.
Good point.
Yes.
Good point. Jared from
the jocks have spoken.
Yeah, Jared from Milwaukee completely is a nerd. This is one of the best emails we've ever got, and I'm going to end it here. He says he completely agrees with my take on the Gold Cup for all the reasons that I gave. The other nations in CONCACAF matter, and here's where it gets interesting. He adds that the UEFA countries, the people that are Euro snobs, love to watch that because global soccer powers only are that because of their historic colonization of the Caribbean. The immense wealth they stole from the islands and its people for centuries allowed them to industrialize, which of course is the main reason for their soccer prowess. Population boom, urbanization, industrial economy with leisure time and expendable income, and the massive head start they had on every other nation in the world. Then he goes on to name all the star soccer players who have Caribbean backgrounds. Thierry Henry, Gullit, Cole, currently Raheem Sterling, Van Dijk, Alex Witsel, Rafael Varane. In another world, they're CONCACAF stars,
Lilian Thuram was literally born in the Caribbean.
Yes. In short, Caribbean islands are soccer minnows because of historical processes, not some lack of talent or potential.
That is spectacular.
That's extra time's wheelhouse right there.
That is my wheelhouse. Bring
gotta be the best of all time.
Perspective, baby.
That's the best of all time.
Feel bad when we did it without
Speaking
Goss.
truth. Speaking truth to power.
I'm going to recommend.
Send him a jersey. Send him everything. Send him everything.
I'm going to recommend Mike Duncan's Revolutions podcast because it gets into all of this.
Oh my God.
Such a good podcast. If you want to learn about history.
It's time, folks. Thank you so much for hanging with us. I hope you have a great July 4th. Stay safe.
What a great email.
Don't do anything stupid with fireworks is what I'm telling you right now. We'll see you on Sunday for Club and Country pre- and post game, and then we'll break it all down with the MLS weekend on Monday. Enjoy your holiday, everybody. We'll see you real soon.